children. Well, today I've brought you to the garden of Mr. and Mrs. Russell in Floreal. Why do you think I've brought you here? Have a look at this wonderful fish pond just here. Have a look at its shape. What shape do you think the fish pond is? Well, it's a circle, a very big circle. In a program before, I took you to one of the biggest circles on the island, and that was at Trua Surf. But this is a smaller one, but it's still a big circle. How do you think Mr. and Mrs. Russell made this pond? First of all, how did they make the circle? Did they get a pair of compasses and measure on the ground? No, they didn't. I'm going to show you how they did it. Well, children, to make this larger circle, I've asked Mrs. Russell to help me. What she's going to do is to push that stick so that it's steady in the middle of the circle that we're going to make. And then we've attached this string to the stick. And with the string held fairly tightly, I'm going to walk around, keeping it tight all the time, and Mrs. Russell is going to put down flour to make our circle. Watch what we do. I'm keeping the string fairly tight, and Mrs. Russell is following me and very nicely putting down the flour. You'll see that Mrs. Russell is just following this string very carefully with the flour. Of course, you can use sand or anything else for this. So we're nearly completing the circle, and there we are. We've come round to the beginning again. And so we've got a really plain circle that you can all see. She's just going over that again so that we get a nice circle. So you see, children, how easy it was to make this circle. If we wanted to make a larger circle, of course we would have longer string. And thanks to Mrs. Russell, who is just going around making it a very, very nice circle now, we have a circle which we can now make a fish pond. If we wanted to build a round hut, we would be able to do that. Now, we don't always want to have big circles. Sometimes you want to draw a circle on a piece of paper. So now I'm going to show you how to do that. You've just seen how easy it was for Mrs. Russell and myself to make a large circle with a piece of stick, a piece of string, and some flour. Now I want to show you how to make a circle on an ordinary piece of paper. And for that I've made what I call a circle maker out of a piece of cardboard. All I've done is pushed holes into this cardboard here. See the holes there? And with those holes I'm going to place the circle maker on the paper, and I'm going to put the pointed object through one of the holes, which is the same as Mrs. Russell did on the ground outside with the stick. Then with my pencil, I place the pencil, depending on the size of circle we wish to draw, we can put our pencil in any of these holes. If I put it in that hole, it would be a much bigger circle. Let's just put it in this hole for now and draw our circle like this. And then back, and then round to join the circle there. So there's a very nice circle drawn with very, very simple apparatus, and we call this the circle maker. Of course, many of you will have used a pair of compasses for drawing your circles in school, and you will have seen the larger pair of compasses used by your teacher. Well, children, in a previous program we've been talking about rectangles and squares. Here is a rectangle, and I just want to show you that all the way round this rectangle we call it the perimeter of the rectangle. Across here we call the diagonal. Now we're looking at circles, and we have this nice big circle, the fish pond, and I'm now going to walk around the outside of this fish pond. So I come around to here, I'm walking all the way round to there, continue. When we've walked all the way round a circle, we don't call it the perimeter, we call it the circumference. The circumference. It comes from the Latin circus, which means ring. I have a wedding ring in my pocket, and a ring like that, a circle, is a ring. So circus, ring, circumference. Now I want to show you a few more things and parts about the circle. Now we come back to the circle which we drew on the ground. You will remember that now we call the flower line in there, we call that the circumference of the circle. Now remember the piece of string that we used for going around? You will see that from the stick to a point on the circumference is this distance, the measurement of the string. If I move it to another point on the circumference, it's still the same piece of string and still the same distance. And I move it to here and to another point, and this is still the same distance. On a circle, we call from the center of the circle, where the stick is, along this string, we call that the radius. And I'm asking Mrs. Russell to just put flour on that one radius. There are many of them. They're all round, like the spokes on a bicycle. They're all round the circle, but we'll just make that one there. So I can take that string away, remembering that distance and that distance is exactly the same. Right. Now I'm going to show you another part of the circle. I'm fixing the string on a point on the circumference at that side of the circle, and I'm pulling the string across to another point on the same circle, on the circumference, remember. And I'm just going to ask Mrs. Russell if she could put that line in with flour for us. Thank you very much. Now that is an important part of the circle, and I'm going to show you something very interesting which will help you remember what that's called. Here I have a bow and arrow. A bow and arrow. The bow, this part is called the bow, and it comes from the word arcus, which means bow, arc. And this part of the circle here, this part is called an arc. Between that point and that point is the arc. Now this bit here, this is string, as you know, and this part here is called the chord of the circle. Chord is Latin for string. Chord. So we've got the arc and the chord. Now remember that, and I'm now going to move further around, keeping that at the same point, moving around. There is another chord, but have you noticed that as I move around, I need more string. You see? I need more string. I'm moving to here, and it's getting longer. I need even more string, and more string, and more string to here. I need quite a lot. I'm going through the center of the circle there, and if I start moving around the other side, then my string gets shorter and shorter as I come round here. So the longest line across the circle is here. It is called a chord, but it's got another name, and that is the diameter. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Russell just to finish that line for us, remembering that is called the diameter, the longest line across the circle. You will see, children, that this is the longest distance between 2 points on the circumference of the circle. You'll notice that it passes through the center of the circle to here. Now, this line is called the diameter of the circle. You will notice, of course, that it is 2 radii in distance. This here, and if I take it across to here, you will see it's another radius. So the diameter is twice the distance of 1 radius length. Now, children, I want to show you something very interesting and very important for your schoolwork. Mrs. Russell and I have put this rope across the large circle, and this now, you know, is called the diameter, all the way across through the center of the circle. Now, I'm just going to try to see how many of these diameters fit into the circumference of the circle. So I'm asking Mrs. Russell just to come to there. We start at this point, and we go round there. 1 diameter. Go on, right. That's 2 diameters. Thank you. And this is 3 diameters to here, children. Now, 3 diameters. It's not quite got round the circumference. There's a little bit left, but don't worry about that at present. We can say then, children, that the circumference is actually 3 times the diameter all the way across the center of the circle. A little bit more, but that doesn't worry us at present. Well, children, I hope you've enjoyed our program on circles today. We've learnt quite a lot. Goodbye, children, everywhere. Is the